Hello, it's 2025. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, all of that jazz. And you know what that means? I'm going to do a little wrap-up review of the year 2024. Let's get into it. See, I was planning on starting off with my favourite films of the year, but I think let's do a different order and build up to the films because that's kind of what I'm known for on this channel, because I do a lot of film reviews. Instead, I'm going to talk about my favourite shows first of all. First of all, kind of obvious one, if you saw my last video, it was a review on Arcane Season 2, and that is definitely my favourite show of this year. Arcane Season 2, top tier, amazing, go watch my review. I'm not going to go over that again, but it sat with me more, and I think I've grown to like it a bit more than when I first watched it. Then we've got Dandadan, an anime which I absolutely adored. I've been trying to get into anime a bit more because I've only watched Attack on Titan, really, and a couple of others. But Dandadan I watched all of this year, weekly, and I really liked it. The characters are really great. They're obviously very quirky and funny, but they're also really cool. And I also connect to them on kind of like an emotional level. Like the kind of romance elements were working for me as well as the action elements. And the action works a lot for me. That animation, so dynamic, so interesting, never lets up, it's never boring, it's always doing something different. And I just kind of love the mix between a, overarching storyline, but also this kind of monster of the week, kind of classic cartoon format. So works on so many levels, so fun. Every week was a blast. I was looking forward to it every week. I think watching it weekly was a good format for this, even as much as I'd love to have binged it. I think it was fun having to wait and ponder over the episode and, catch up on it weekly. So definitely a highlight of my year, something that I hadn't heard of until just before it came out. And then I was like, oh, there's an anime. I'd just heard of this manga. So that's pretty cool. Good timing for me, I guess, because I thought the concept of one of the characters believes in aliens, one of them believes in ghosts. Turns out they're both real and they've got to team up to, fight both. And I was like, that sounds like a really cool manga. If I get into reading manga one day, I'll probably read that. And then a few months after that, it was like, oh, there's an anime. And I was like, oh, that's that thing I heard of. Cool. And I was very happy with the timing on that one. And I watched it and it was great. So it's a shame that it kind of got split up into one of those 2 season things, but it's actually more like they just split the 1 season into 2 because the pacing is kind of weird now because it kind of just, you felt like it ended up just in the middle of the story, but that's okay. I'm happy that I don't have to wait like 2 or 3 years. It's just coming this year in the summer, so you know what, I'm okay with it. And then another animated show that I really enjoyed, X-Men 97. I love the X-Men. The X-Men movies, a lot of them are in my top comic book movies of all time. A few of them are in the worst. So, varying quality, but I think overall, the team and just the concept of the mutants in the Marvel Universe are so cool. I love all the different iterations they have. I love how there's such a deep, vast pool of characters that they can draw from that it's almost like a whole, superhero universe within the Marvel Universe. That's just something I love about Marvel in general and DC, that there's certain subsections of the universe that are so fleshed out and so deep that they can exist on their own, but they're just alongside Spider-Man and Iron Man and the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. But anyways, that's a conversation for a different day. I really like X-Men, and I really liked X-Men 97. I haven't watched the original 90s series. I didn't grow up then because I'm 19, and I just never ended up watching it, growing up or now. But that being said, I loved this revival. So cool that, you can jump on as a new fan as well as, an old fan. And I think that's the best of both worlds. But saying that, the animation, spectacular. When we first got looks at it, I wasn't sure. Even the trailers, I wasn't sure. But in the show, it works so well. It's such a good blend of the kind of original show's 2D art with this new kind of 3D CG animation, but it works. It doesn't feel unnatural. It doesn't feel forced. It just feels like a genuinely good evolution of the art style, and it just fits so well, and it allows for such cool action scenes. I'm of the opinion that animation is probably the best medium for comic book adaptations because it's so close to comic books, because drawn art can easily transfer to moving animation a lot easier than to live action, because it's just very different at that point. I'm not saying obviously no live action comic book adaptation works. I'm just saying I think there's a lot closer of a connection between comic art and animation. Basically, the animation allows for some really cool and memorable fight scenes. Cyclops became one of my favorite Marvel characters just from this alone. I've heard people basically say he's a lot cooler than he is in the movies, and I believe them, and now I've seen it. And I've been wanting to get into X-Men comics for a while, and I definitely will. This has pushed me to do that even more, because I think it's just a great representation of what I have seen in the comics and what I've heard about from the comics, that, you know, the X-Men aren't as like down to earth, as serious as the movies portray, because, you know, they fight aliens, they go to space. There's just a lot more zaniness going on in the comics than the films have ever allowed for, and X-Men 97 goes to those places and allows for the general public to really see, oh, the X-Men are kind of crazy. And yeah, I just think it's overall really good. The writing was surprisingly great. The lead writer got kicked out of the show. Fair enough. We don't know what he's done, but from the sounds of it, it sounds justified. So I'm not going to complain that season 3 is not going to have the best writing, because if it's for the greater good, basically, sure, good. That being said, the writing is really good. It's really powerful. It's funny at times. The season storyline is really impressively done. And there's just some lines in the show which I was like, damn, I did not expect that from the X-Men 97 cartoon. But there you go. It works. And it's led me to maybe want to visit the original show at some point. And I'm very much looking forward to season 2. This was a very nice surprise. And I hope it leads Marvel to do more animation, because it's so crazy that they kind of just don't have a million bajillion Marvel animated shows on at the moment, because we need more Marvel animation. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is amazing. Spider-Man Freshman Year, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, that show's had like a million different titles. That looks great. I'm really excited for the future of Marvel animation, and I hope there's more. So I really liked X-Men 97. Good show. Hope to see more. There you go. And now for a couple live action shows. We've got The Penguin, first of all. I really love The Batman, one of my favourite comic book movies of all time. Matt Reeves killed it on that film. So good. Robert Pattinson is amazing in that. And I really liked Colin Farrell as the Penguin. I loved how he looked so different because of all the makeup, and it was completely like, I was in that performance. I didn't even think of Colin Farrell, mainly because I couldn't recognise him in there, but because he committed to the performance on top of the makeup. It was so impressive. And he was hardly in it. It was just a good little addition. So when I heard they were making a Penguin spin-off, I was like, I can see how that could go. Hopefully it doesn't, sour the kind of amazing reputation built up by just one film. And I'm happy to say it did not. It really carries on the kind of great legacy of the film with some amazing writing, great characters, good world building. It adds a lot to the world, which is what any good spin-off show should do. And I just think overall it was an amazing show. I was very surprised by how great it actually was. It started off a bit shaky, visually mainly. The visuals overall just aren't as strong as the Batman movies, but they never were gonna be, to be fair. So I think what they kind of settle on in later episodes of the show with the look is good. Earlier in the show, it was almost like they were still trying to be the Batman, and I'm like, mate, you haven't got the sauce for that. Go with something else. And eventually they did go with something else. So that was good. Colin Farrell, amazing. So good in this role. Even more than in the Batman, I kept having to remind myself, this is Colin. I can't even imagine that. I can't fathom that, because I keep thinking, wow, I love this actor portraying the Penguin. What's his name again? He's so good in this. He's so deep in the role and in the makeup and within, the accent and the way he walks and the movements. Everything is so well done. He completely transforms, and the team around him transforms him into the Penguin. And I absolutely love that. Other than that though, the new characters they introduce, love them too. Sophia Falcone, amazing. She's menacing, but she's very interesting. She's got kind of tragic story. Love her as a villain. Love that she's not a one-note villain. There's a lot to her, but she's still villainous. She's not like, oh, I feel just so bad for her that I don't want Oz to beat her in any way. And at times it's kind of like that, but at other times it's like, oh, she shouldn't have done that. That was evil. I don't like her. So overall, she's a great character. So well portrayed. Really good. I love that there's characters being introduced in this show that are like, man, I could definitely see them appear in a movie and be like, yeah, this works. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like they're putting the show character in the movie. Sometimes it feels like that a bit in the MCU. Not that I dislike the MCU, not to compare this to the MCU too much, but I think this is a very well done spin-off show that just feels like a genuine connecting chapter in the story. Whereas Sophia Falcone appears in the Batman 2 and she's like, oh, my half-sister is Catwoman, blah, blah, blah. it'll be like, okay, yeah, that's cool. I liked you in that show, and you're like a genuinely great character. I'm happy that you're here. And then Vic, I absolutely love Vic in this show. Such a great role, such a great performance, so heartfelt. You connect with him so much, and you see this kind of fall of a genuine, like, young man into this kind of, like, you know, Gotham crime circuit, which is just something that I think they should do more with adaptations of Gotham City. Is showing how, you know, people every day kind of fall victim to becoming criminals here, because it is such like a crime-ridden city, which we know. But they touch on that a bit in the Batman, very briefly, with that kid who doesn't want to beat up that guy, and then Batman beats up all his friends. And it's almost like they took that and they were like, what if we made a whole character out of this kind of guy who doesn't really want to be in it, but maybe he does, and then it progresses more, and they pair him with evil man the Penguin, and their dynamic is so great, because it's so kind of like, at first it's like, how is this going to work out? And eventually it's like, oh wow, they're kind of nice, it's kind of cute. And then it's like, oh, but he's kind of making this kid evil, but he's not evil, he's still got like traits of his good personality, but like, oh, he's doing these bad things. All of this is just sold through their performances and the amazing writing and their amazing chemistry on screen. Such a great pairing, such a great, you know, season arc. I think this show has some amazing characters and amazing writing, and visually, I think it's pretty good. Like I said, it progresses to a point where I'm actually like, wow, this looks great. And I think overall, it's an amazing addition to the Batman saga. I'm glad it exists. I'm not like, oh, that's a cute spin-off, I don't need it. Genuinely, I'm like, wow. Especially because the Batman Part 2 comes out 2027. Whatever. I'm glad we've got this, at least, to make it feel like the world still exists and to fill out the world. That's what any good spin-off should do. I'm a sucker for a good spin-off, and this definitely hit that nail on the head completely. Great show, and I'll be interested in season 2 or just more spin-offs in this universe. Two-Face, Harvey Dent show, that would bang. That's kind of what I want. We'll see. And then, last but not least, Squid Game season 2. Now I know, Squid Game, worldwide phenomenon. Very, very, very popular TV show. But I genuinely think season 1 is top tier television. It's actually great. It's one of those occasions where, wow, this show is popular for a good reason, because it's good. Same way Breaking Bad is. Everyone loves Breaking Bad, but it's good. I only watched like 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, but I know from that, and from what I've heard, most of it is an actual good show, and that's why it became a phenomenon. Early seasons of Walking Dead. You get my point. This, yes, it kind of blew up because of TikTok and social media, but I think it blew up because people were watching it at first and like, wow, this is good. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, I think actually it's a testament to a show's quality or a movie's quality when there is stuff that is built to be iconic straight away. They knew they could make sets and costumes and the games and the concept instantly iconic if it reaches a good amount of audience, because it's just well done. I'm only saying that because I can imagine some people being like, wow, it feels too forced. It feels like it's trying to blow up and trying to catch on. But I feel like lots of classic movies and classic television shows kind of build that into their, you know, visual identity from the get-go. And it's just because we've kind of filled out mostly our iconic visuals and iconic lines and songs and visual pulls and just any of those little things, because film and television have there's a lot of it. So early days, yes, you could like snag a lot of those more easily because there's not a lot of competition, but nowadays it's harder to be like, wow, look at this very instantly recognizable but unique visual that I came up with, because it's like everything's influenced by something, because everything's come out, so like it's hard to come up with something truly unique. That being said, I think that's why it's so impressive that Squid Game genuinely came out and put so many things into the public consciousness. All the games, everyone knows all the games and the concepts just from a quick visual, because each game has a distinct visual, each game is unique, each game is simple to understand but then has a lot of depth to it. And then there's audio cues to go along with it, like the song that the doll sings in the first game. Everyone knows that, even though lots of us don't speak Korean, we know in overall kind of what that sound is and what it means and what it entails and the emotions it portrays and conveys. And I just love that. I love how this newer show really put a lot of new things into the public consciousness. All the guards and their shape masks and the bright visuals. I love that this show has a bright aesthetic, and obviously that's to contrast the dark themes and the dark narrative. But simple things like that, I think, go a long way. And I think, just basically what I'm trying to say is, the show is actually genuinely really good. The writing's great. The performances are great. I cried so much to, I think, episode 7 of season 1. Everyone did, but like, the fact that we all cried means it's well written, because they get you to connect to all these characters in a pretty short amount of time. And I just think, overall, season 1 is still impressive for being an insanely popular show that's genuinely a good show. That being said, I think season 2 continues this trend. I think it's very well written. That opening episode, really great. It takes concepts from season 1 and deepens them and dives into them more. And this is all outside of the game. I enjoy that the show isn't just reliant on the games and the flashy visuals, because it could be, but it takes a couple episodes to get into the games. And then when we're in the games, they're very different. And I like how they introduce new games. And these are also, to me, just as memorable and as iconic as the original set. It's not like, oh, season 2's games were not as good, not as interesting, not as novel, blah, blah, blah. No, it's like, wow, season 2 continues this. Season 2, I think, is a worthy successor. I was worried it wasn't going to be. I was worried from the trailers. It just kind of looked more of the same. The buzz, I thought there was no hype. I was very wrong. This show blew up again, which I'm happy with, because, again, it's well done. It's well written. The themes, they're kind of on the nose. I say that, but some of the fans don't understand the real themes of the show. But I think sometimes on the nose is good, because you have the baseline very on the nose, social commentary, blah, blah, blah. But then it deepens when you really get into the subtext and you dive in. I think these new characters are all really interesting. There might even be more of them that I find more interesting than in the first season, where there was a few that I found interesting and a couple I wasn't really bothered by. This one, they're all really interesting. I love there's kind of a twist about one of the players. I don't know if it's in the trailer, so I won't spoil that. But, I mean, if you're on the internet, you probably know what happens in the show. Basically what I'm saying is, I think there's a lot of new concepts, new ideas, new characters introduced to make it not stale and to not make it just round 2 of the games. The fact that Gi-hun is trying to stop the games, and he's obviously played before, makes it interesting, because there's a different perspective, and as later episodes go on, there's different things completely that happen because of that. I think it's really interesting. You get more insight into the guards, you get more action outside of the games overall in the season. I think the show is actually still really good, and that cliffhanger sucks because it's really good. But I'm glad that they shot season 2 and 3 back to back, so we don't have to wait 3 years for that. Very smart. Very cool that they're ending it on season 3. Yes, Netflix will milk this cash cow forever. There's already a David Fincher-led American remake road, adaptation, whatever. I have thoughts on that. Surprisingly positive thoughts. But maybe I'll save that for a different video post season 3. But yeah, I'm just glad that the main show at least is ending when it's ending, and it's not going to go on for years and years. 3 seasons, especially now that I've watched season 2, is enough. I thought maybe it was too much at the time. Now that I watched season 2, I can understand where it's going. I think this show is really good. I don't think this season's as strong as the original, just because the original had all the setup and the introductions, and it's like, oh wow, we haven't seen this before. No one in the show has seen this before. There's no, oh, I played these games before, here's how to do them, here's how to get around them. No, everyone's on the same page. That first season is something special. There's more games, so I think it allows for more intrigue into, oh, I wonder what game's next. Oh wow, that game was kind of crazy. Wow, we're really dwindling in the numbers. Wow, there's only 2 people left. Wow. It's different. It's just a different format, a different structure. I think I prefer it. That being said, this season's still really strong. I'm so surprised, but very, very pleasantly surprised that this season isn't a letdown, isn't a cash cow kind of like, oh man, they did not need to carry on this popular show, but they did anyway. No, I think it's genuinely good. I think it's funny, surprisingly. Like I said, some of these characters are really interesting, really deep. And I think, overall, I'm actually glad they continue Squid Game. And I'm looking forward to season 3. Okay, now let's switch it up and go from a visual medium to an audio medium, auditory, a sound medium. Music, basically. I'm talking about music. I'm going to talk about my favourite albums of the year. You've got very, very popular album, Brat, Charlie XCX. Good album, lots of great songs. I like the remix album as well. Overall, very great. I like how it kind of became its own movement, its own moment, and the branding, the album cover itself, the rollout was all very, impressive because it allowed for that. So props to Charlie for that. I think it was very well done. Album just in general to make an actual impact, a social impact. I think it will be remembered for years to come. And the music itself was actually very good. It's not like it's just a trend. No, I actually like to listen to the music. 365, Everything Is Romantic, good songs. I like, crazy opinion, I know. I also really like Atavista by Childish Gambino. I know this is technically not a 2024 album, but it is because there were the demo versions released back in 2020, but this is the fully finalized album, so technically yes, it's different, so it's new, so it's 2024, but whatever. I really liked it. I love Childish Gambino. That just reminded me, I'm not gonna go back and edit it because I'm lazy, but Mr. and Mrs. Smith, definitely one of my top shows of the year as well. He's in that. I was just gonna say, love that he's in one of my favorite shows and one of my favorite albums of the year. Do like Donald Glover. I think he's a cool guy. Very inspiring that he can do a lot of different things all at once and do them very well. I really like this album. Lots of good songs. I like the features. I like the updates to the from the original demos personally, but I can imagine if you've been listening die hard for the past 4 years, some of these changes will be a bit weird. Whereas I listened to it once when it came out and then didn't touch it again. So to be fair, that's probably why I like these changes, because I'm I don't really remember the old ones. But anyways, yeah, very well produced. Do like this album. Then we've got Cowboy Carter, which I really, really liked. I think I prefer Renaissance, but there's still a lot of good tracks on here. You've got Bodyguard, Two Most Wanted, amazing duet that. Levi's Jeans, River Dance, I had that on repeat a lot when that came out. Sweet Honey Buckin', there's just a lot of good songs on here. Lots of good vocals, and I like the country vibe. It's not like a straight up country album, it's actually got a lot of, different kind of genres all mixed together. But the country elements it does have, I actually quite like, and I'm not a big country person, so if anyone's going to get me to enjoy country, it's going to be Beyonce. So not surprised there. So yeah, good album. I'm looking forward to whatever Act 3 is. And before we get into my favourites of the year, I might as well throw in some film scores that I enjoyed. I love Dune Part 2's film score. It's a little hint for my favourites of the year, film-wise. But Dune Part 2's score was absolutely amazing. Kiss the Ring, I had that on repeat, full blast, constantly, because it's so good. The emotions it brings in the film when you're watching it are just as strong as when you're just listening to it with no visuals. Such a good track. So good. That film, okay, I'll get into that, but yeah, the score, amazing. Great. Booming, but also emotional. Ooh, very good. Just thinking about it, yeah. Then we've got the Challenger score. This score is so unique, so great. I love how energetic it is. It's used in the film very well. I know lots of people had mixed feelings about it because it's kind of overpowering, but I think that's why it works for me. I think it's so, atypical for a film score. Usually film scores are orchestral and dramatic, and they all kind of have a similar feel. There are lots of, especially now, different kind of unique scores to make themselves stand out, but this really stands out from the crowd. I don't think I've had a film score like this, especially in such a kind of, I say mainstream, not that Luca is a mainstream director, but I feel like the film's kind of more high profile than some others because it's got Zendaya in it, but the score doesn't have to try and stay low key because of that. It's very in your face. It's not background music to me, it's foreground music, which is also very impressive. And it's just great to listen to. It's good to listen to, I don't know, when you're working out, when you're walking about, when you're doing anything, playing video games. It's such an energetic, fun score to listen to. It's just genuinely good kind of house clubby music that happens to be in such a great movie and work with the movie. I love that. I love when I'm of the opinion, obviously I'm listing them, that you can listen to film scores regardless of the genre. Orchestral film scores like the Dune soundtrack, I like listening to in my spare time. But I know for lots of people that's strange or whatever. I genuinely think you could recommend someone this album, not tell them it's a film score, and if they're into this music, they could be like, oh, this is sick. And then you tell them it's a film score and they might genuinely be like, wow. Someone could enjoy the Dune Part 2 score, but you tell them it's a film score, they'll probably be like, yeah, I figured. Or I was wondering. Or, oh, it sounded cinematic. With Challenges, it's more like, oh, intriguing, because I didn't think that. And I like that. I think it's cool to have more varying genres in film scores and, you know, open up the possibilities of what film score can be and not kind of limit it to just orchestral or just serious or just dramatic. And obviously what works for what it is. So don't, you know, have this kind of score in Oppenheimer, but it's just getting a bit more exciting with it and a bit more interesting. And I think this score is just great. And it's just a great album in general. Now, for my top 3, we've got Kendrick Lamar's GNX. Kendrick Lamar had a crazy year last year. Obviously, Euphoria, Not Like Us, Meet the Grahams, all of the Drake disses, whatever. But I'm glad he ended off the year with such a great album, removed from all of that, just to make sure, you know, people didn't, you know, think, oh, 2024 was just big for him because Drake and the disses and the beef. No, he still just makes great music. He's not just a diss track guy, because for some reason people decided to start saying that, which is funny. It's like, did we forget any year before this year? But anyways, GNX is really good. It grew on me a bit. Like, I was really enjoying it first listen, but then I was like, man, is this really like worth the wait, the hype? I don't know. It is. I think on subsequent listens, literally I listened to it right after my first listen, and then I was like, oh no, this is great. And then I would listen to it again the next day when I was out, and then since then I've been listening to lots of different tracks from the album. I think this album's great. I think it's got such a unique sound, which I think is really cool. The production's great. I like all the features. A lot of them are like smaller LA rappers that I haven't heard of, which is cool because I just get to listen to them rap and not be like, oh, I'm excited because it's this big artist. No, I'm just listening to the lyrics and being like, this is good for its own merit. And then also it's just cool that he's shining a light on these lesser known rappers, because that's always good, and I'm glad he's doing that. The scissor features, both of them, because it's 2, which is still amazing. Both amazing. The samples are great. The storytelling on tracks like Reincarnated and The Heart Part 6 and Gloria, all amazing. I just love the way Kendrick can go from a hype kind of like dancey, like, you know, cool, fun song to like a track that's very deep and you have to actually listen to the lyrics really carefully, and he's saying a lot and telling a story. I just love how he can flip-flop between that and have it feel natural throughout. So yeah, GNX, really, really good. Great way to cap off such a sick year that Kendrick had. Then, of course, we've got Chromacopia. Tyler, I just think he's like gonna be considered one of the greats by the time his career is finished, whenever that is. Hopefully it's not soon, but if it is, I think he's given us bodies of work that are all so unique, all so different, but all tied together by his creativity, no pun intended, well actually pun intended, and his talent, that he could stop here and it would be satisfying, but not satisfying because I need more from him, because every album's so cool, every album's so unique, every album's building upon the last, but then, you know, bringing something different, and it's all so great. He's just, I love him. I love his music so much, and Chromacopia delivered, man. Like, it's so good. It's a lot more personal and maybe deeper than some of his previous albums, but it's still got the fun playfulness that he's known for, which again, I like a good mix like that. All of these songs are all memorable. All of these songs are all, you know, standouts. None of them blend in. I'm sure, yeah, you can have songs that are your least favorite versus your favorite, but I feel like most people would agree that they know all the tracks. Like, they can hear, you know, a couple bars, the instrumentals, and be like, oh, I know what track this is, or oh yeah, I remember this one, even if they're not like, you know, die-hard listener, they've listened to it once. Or you listen to it over and over and you will get them all like ingrained to a point where you're like, oh yeah, I like that one. You ask me about Hey Jane, and I can be like, oh yeah, I like this part, or I like the overall, you know, story of it, or oh, Sticky, I love all the features, and I love how fun it is, and I love this part of the song. Oh, this was my favorite verse, blah blah. There's so much like dynamic conversation that can be had because the album's so dense, but it's so approachable. I don't think you can get like too lost in it. Like, it's not like it's hard to get a lot out of it. It's easy to enjoy, and then there's a lot more you can delve into because it's very deep, which I love. It's multi-layered, it's multifaceted, it's so good. Production wise, it's amazing. Tyler's rapping is so good. I love his flows, I love all his little bars, I like the jokes he makes, I like the serious aspects he goes into. He takes on different voices, you know, portrays different people. So good. It's just so amazing. Yeah, I really like this album. Very, very good. And then, last but not least, I Lay Down My Life For You by JPEG Mafia. I'm a big JPEG Mafia fan. I'd say he's my favourite artist, favourite rapper currently. He has been for the past couple of years now. And I was very hotly anticipating his newest album, and it definitely didn't disappoint. I love the kind of like heavy metal vibe he goes for in the production, and then his like vocal performance, I guess you could say. It's really, really cool. I'm not really into heavy metal myself, but he makes it work. It's not overbearing, but he really goes hard at some points, and I love it. It's really cool. It's so fun to listen to. It gets you in like this like head thumping mood. It's great. I love like all the tracks on here. So good. Some of my highlights being Don't Rely on Other Men. I liked it as a single, and then he went and, you know, added to it in the album version, and it became even better than what to me was already an amazing song. Vulgar Display of Power. So heavy, so cool. I love that one so much. JPEG Ultra. I love a Denzel Curry and JPEG Mafia collab. And this did not disappoint. Loop It and Leave It, great. I love the production on this. I'm always impressed that Peggy produces and raps on his own albums. Like, he's just best of both worlds. It's so cool because as much as I love his rapping, I think the production is sometimes the best part of the songs. And you just put those two things together and it's just amazing combo. Don't Put Anything in the Bible, really, really good. I love this one. Buzzy Lee's feature was great, and then I found out she's Steven Spielberg's daughter, which is very funny because that means JPEG Mafia is like one person away from Steven Spielberg, which is interesting. I love that. Either On or Off the Drugs. I've listened to this song so much. I think it was my third or fourth. I can't remember. It was in my top 5 songs of the year. On Spotify Rap because I had this song repeat so much. For some reason, it just clicks for me. I like the sample in the back. I like the kind of more low-key, very serious, kind of like sad performance from Peggy. It was like, damn, like I didn't realize you could get this deep. But yeah, really, really good album. Listen to it front to back a lot, and it gets better every time. Definitely not a disappointment, and he's just keeping up the streak of great albums, so I look forward to whatever he does next. Now, for a very quick category, we've got games. I haven't played a lot of the new releases because games are expensive, blah blah blah. Astrobot, very, very fun game. I got that for Christmas, so just about in 2024. Really, really like this one. You can feel the Nintendo influence oozing off it. Specifically, of course, Mario. Even more specifically, Super Mario Galaxy, which I love Super Mario Galaxy 2. Banger game. And this, yes, the Nintendo influence is there, but like I don't think that's a bad thing, especially because this game is just so fun. It's so inventive. It's so visually pleasing. Like the aesthetics in this game are so fun. It's so bright and colorful and vibrant and zany and just captivating. And all the power-ups are so cool. All the enemies are so fun. All the bots you find are so exciting. All the cameos are cool. Astrobot's animations are so lovely and delightful. It's just a happy game to play. It made me feel good. It made me feel like nice. I'm having fun, and this is nice, and it's cute. Cute is the word to describe this game. It's a very cute experience. It's a shorter experience. I mean, I took my time with it. I didn't rush through it, so it's lasted me a few. Like I just finished it before recording this, so it's not like I finished it Christmas Day, you know. But you could probably do that Christmas week. You could probably binge through it, but there's enough content in here to actually last you if you just want to take your time and play in bursts. The levels are all really great. They're all unique. They're all memorable. They're all different. Don't feel like you're just kind of repeating the same things all the time. And that's helped with the fact that you've got a different power up in each level. I love the way Astrobot controls. He's so tactile. It's so tight. Yeah, it's like easy to pick up, but hard to master. And I really appreciate that with a platformer. Just a very, very solid package of a game. Really fun. And I'm glad it won Game of the Year because I hope it pushes the industry, especially Sony, to invest in cartoony visuals again and shorter experiences and gameplay focused games. And not everything has to be high fidelity, the best looking game ever that costs 600 million. No, sometimes it can be like just got this fun experience that's just really well done and really polished, and it's just fun. Go at it, So hopefully this game success encourages more of that industry wide as well as at Sony. But yeah, really had fun with this. Then a much more recent game, Marvel Rivals. I'm going to be dropping a video all about this game very soon, so I'm not going to go into it really at all. Just want to say, having a lot of fun. It's reminding me of those Overwatch days back in the day, and yeah, that's all I need to say. If you get it, you get it. It's very fun. Full video very soon. And now, last but not least, my favourite films of the year. First up, not very original, but we've got Dune Part 2. I feel like we all know why this film's so great by now. Captivating visuals, so, grand in scale and vast in its scope, like a genuine epic of a movie, which is what the story needs, and it delivers on that front wholeheartedly. The performances in this, also amazing. Timothée Chalamet, blew it out of the park. Like, I obviously knew he was a good actor, but there's certain scenes later in this movie where I was like, damn, I did not know he had that in him. He's definitely one of my favorite actors working today. Yeah, so good. Zendaya, she's really good at getting some emotions from me in this role. Very subtle, but I think a great performance. Rebecca Ferguson and Javier Bardem are also really great, very memorable. But Austin Butler is doing some crazy stuff in this movie. He is just it's very campy, it's very over the top, but I love it. I think it works. Maybe campy isn't the right word, but it's just a really great, fun performance. Good villain. He's kind of funny at times, but also menacing at times. And I think it's very effective and memorable. The ending of this film took me off guard with how emotionally it got me. And just in general, I didn't expect this movie to make me so emotional, because I liked the first movie, but this took it to a whole new level. I fell in love with this world, with these characters. Just such a great film and a great part 2. And I cannot wait to see what Denis does with Dune Messiah. Then we're keeping in the desert. Now, instead of on Arrakis, we're in Australia. Furiosa. I will forever not forgive the world for letting Furiosa flop. Now, I get it. It's been about 10 years since Mad Max Fury Road. It's a prequel. The original movie didn't do amazingly well to really warrant a prequel coming out 10 years after and to expect it to do amazingly. But I just think this film is so amazing and so great and such a fun time and such a great story that I just think it's a shame that no one saw it. George Miller's directing is so unique and distinct, and it works so well for this crazy post-apocalyptic setting. I think Anya Taylor-Joy does a great job at taking on the role from Charlize Theron and making it her own, but also, making it so that we can definitely see how she becomes that character. I really love Chris Hemsworth in this role. I've never seen him do anything like this before. His Thor performances are kind of tame and boring in comparison. I mean, I like him in Ragnarok and Infinity War, but still, he's so good in this, such a great villain. Both parts kind of terrifying, but also zany and crazy and fun. So cool. The action in this movie, while not as, in your face and constant as Fury Road, is at times just as crazy, off the wall, insane. And there's certain parts in this movie that I remember when I watched this in the cinema, I was floating. I felt like I was in it. It was so, immersive. I think this film is great. It's a great, I love that it's called a Mad Max saga because it feels like a saga. It's a long-lasting epic of a story that follows Furiosa from childhood to adulthood and the trials and tribulations of her life, and it's so great. And I think the story is put first over the action this time, which is a great choice because it differentiates it from Fury Road, but adds a lot of context and depth to Fury Road. It's a great pairing. I can't wait. And I've been planning this for ages. I just need to do it to watch them both back to back because I think they work so well in tandem from what I remember. I think this movie's so good. Love it a lot. Yes, it's a shame it flopped, but the real ones get it. And the people who watched it know how good it is. And that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Then we've got Nickel Boys. I talk about this in my London Film Festival video, so I'm not going to go over it again. It just made me cry a lot. It's very touching. Great film. Next up, we've got I Saw the TV Glow. A different kind of horror. It's not horror in, kind of the more in-your-face expected way. It's in the themes and what it represents and the, metaphor behind it. It's basically a allegory for the trans experience. And even though I myself am not trans, I've read trans people's reviews on the film and their take on it and how the fear is the existential fear of it. The the way it connects to them, and the experience of coming out, or maybe when they couldn't come out, or when it was a secret, and that's what it represents, and that's the fear it presents to the audience, and not the kind of usual jump scary or creepy fear. And I think that's really cool to be able to portray something that isn't going to hit everyone, but the people it hits, it really hits, and it really resonates with them, and it can make them cry, it can make them feel inspired in different ways. And I just think not everything is made for everyone, and I think if you target your audience and it finds the audience and they resonate with it and they love it, that's great. And then it's just cool when you get, you know, a few extras like me who are like, I also really like it. And there's a lot of people like me who also really liked it. There was a lot of discourse because some people thought it was boring, and a lot of the people, it wasn't for them and they didn't understand it then. And that's fine, because the people that got it. And I think that's what's most important. I think visually this is amazing. I've never seen anything like it before. It's got such a distinct style. I really like the performances from Justice Smith and Bridget Lundy Payne. They both do an amazing job. Very captivating, very emotional, very off-kilter, but I think it worked for me. The music in this film is also great. Both soundtrack and score from Alex G, just like Jane Schoenbrun's last film. Both of those scores are great. I think I prefer the We're All Going to the World's Fair score, but this one's also very good. The soundtrack's great, just like I said. But yeah, overall, I love this film. I think it's definitely an all-timer of the 2020s. And I think Jane, they have such an amazing and distinct voice, and I can't wait to see what they make in the future. After that, we have got Queer, but because I talked about it in my London Film Festival review, I'm going to talk about something else just so that we're not left on. Go watch another video. And that something else is also by Luca Guadagnino. That is Challenges. I love Challenges. Talked about the music earlier. I think the cinematography is so cool, so unique. I love the tennis scenes, how each scene is shot in a different way, and it makes it so that you're never bored, you're always kept on your toes. I love the dynamic between the core trio of characters. Everyone in this cast is so great. It's such a juicy film. I love it. It's a very sexy film, because it's supposed to be. All Lucas films are sexy, even in the weirdest ways, you know, because one of them's about cannibals. Anyways, I love it. Challenges is great. Like I said, the music is so great, but I feel like that energy is kept up in the visual and the acting. The performances are great. The script, so witty and enjoyable and memorable. And yeah, I just think Challenges, it's still great. I know it kind of blew up, but like with Squid Games, it's another thing that deserves to have blown up. I wish it blew up more. I don't think it even cracked 100 million, despite it felt like it was everywhere online, which is a shame, but it still made a lot more money than it should have on paper. So, you know what? Props to Luca. And you know what? I'll just quickly rattle off a few honourable mentions. Kneecap, Civil War, The Substance, Dee Dee, Better Man, A Violent Nature, Look Back, Lisa Frankenstein, Smile 2, Saturday Night, Monkey Man, Juror Number 2, Ultraman Rising, and Carry On. Carry On, I know it's kind of bad, but I actually loved it, so you know what, it's not bad. Whatever. Watch all those movies, and I hope you enjoy them. But yeah, that's been my 2024 review. I think this year's been pretty decent. I think music front, amazing. Movie front, pretty good. You've got like some bangers. Everything I've talked about here, in general, the whole video, I'd say is 4 stars and above. 4, 4.5, 5 stars. All of it. So that's just why I'm not going to rate them, because they're all within the same ballpark because they're my favourites. That being said, I don't think overall this was the strongest year for film. I just think it was a pretty good year for film, because I think every year there's good films. I'm not of the opinion that there's not any good films anymore, that films falling off. If you say that, you're not watching enough films, and I mean that without any kind of doubt in my mind. Watch more movies if you think that. That being said, I think last year there were better movies overall, but I still think 2024 was a good year, and maybe I should give a rating to 2024, and that rating would be a curry rice. Are we surprised? No, but there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this very, very long video. I had fun making it, and I do like this kind of year wrap-up overall review because it's fun. And let's hope 2025 gives us a lot of good things for me to review as a whole in a year's time. But until then, well, not until then, until my next video, have a nice day.